Paris. On this occasion, I would like to welcome all spectators in the live streaming. My name is Patricia Bein-Frgacic. I'm your moderator this afternoon, and I'm pleased to guide you through today's event. You can see all of today's speakers on the slides behind me, and I will be introducing them formally prior to their speaking slots. We are especially honored that His Excellency Mr. Oliver Vaheli, EU Commissioner for Neighborhood and Enlargement, and His Excellency Mr. Zoran Zaev, Prime Minister of the Republic of North Macedonia and patron of Vienna Economic Forum, will be addressing us online. Due to unforeseen obligations, His Excellency Mr. Janis Janša, Prime Minister of the Republic of Slovenia, and also a patron of Vienna Economic Forum, will be represented by Mr. Gaspar Dožan, State Secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Slovenia. Our special appreciation goes to the members of the board of the Vienna Economic Forum, the excellencies who will be joining us in the live streaming and here in the conference hall, and also to all members of Economy. The Vienna Economic Forum and A1 have a long-term partnership which started off in 2004, and it has steadily developed since that time. In a few moments, I'm giving the floor to our A1 Group CEO, Magister Thomas Arnoldner, who will say a few words about what connects A1 with the VEF region. After that, welcome words will be delivered by the President of Vienna Economic Forum, Mr. Peter Omondom, as well as Ambassador Dr. Elena Kircheva, founder, member of the board, and Secretary General of Vienna Economic Forum, followed by the input statement of EU Commissioner Oliver Vaheli on the state of the progress of the so important economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans. Digital events demand a lot of our concentration, so I would like to request all speakers to strictly stick to their speaking time, to switch off any digital devices which they're bringing with them here in the A1 conference room, and to switch off their speakers or microphones when they're not talking. In case you're overdrawing your speaking time, you will be hearing this. I hope we will not hear it too many times. And with this, I would like to open the floor to Magister Thomas Arnoldner.
Thank you, Patricia. His Excellencies, Commissioner, Prime Ministers, Ambassador Kircheva, and fellow business leaders, it's a pleasure on behalf of A1 Telekom Austria Group to welcome you either here physically in our headquarters in Vienna or to welcome you virtually on most likely our digital infrastructure, which has proven to be so important these days. Of course, we would have loved to welcome you all physically here, but at least these digital tools make it possible for us to host this event even under Corona conditions. At A1 Telekom Austria Group, we are a very proud provider of these tools and infrastructures. We are actually active in 7 Central and Eastern European countries. We have some 18,000 employees. We serve some 25 million of customers who trust the A1 brand, which is actually now common throughout the entire footprint which we serve after the rebranding which we did earlier this year in Serbia. Central and Eastern Europe is of particular importance for us. Roughly 90% of our revenue growth come from outside of Austria in the past years. And as this forum is also especially about investment in the region, let me also point out that we are a large, significant investor in infrastructure in our entire footprint. In the Vienna Economic Forum member countries, we have invested almost 5 billion euros since 2015. And this infrastructure, this digital infrastructure, is as important as it has been never before in history. Just imagine how we would have coped with that crisis 15, 20, or 30 years ago without the possibility to connect remotely, without the possibility to work from home, to learn from home, or to stay in touch with our loved ones without the means of digital devices. I'm really deeply convinced that digital infrastructure, digitalization is paramount in coping with that crisis. I think it's paramount in returning to growth. I think it's paramount in safeguarding prosperity, catering for high-quality jobs, which we all need in our economies, but also to tackle challenges, other challenges ahead, such as the climate change. There are rarely any infrastructures where private investment is as important as it is in our case of telecom or digital infrastructures. There are rarely infrastructures where technological innovation or evolution is coming at this high pace and is so challenging. And what hence is of utmost importance to us is an investment-friendly regulatory framework in the areas we're working at. We have seen some good examples of investment-friendly frameworks quite recently, thinking about recent 5G auctions, which we had in Austria, in Slovenia, and Bulgaria, where deployment obligations and incentives to actually deploy 5G networks have been prioritized over the prices of the spectrum. So long-term incentive have been prioritized over short-term gains, and I think that's a very smart, good approach. We have some areas of concerns as well, to be honest, in cases, for example, where we see government intervention going into very operational stuff, actually going down to the level of which network vendors to choose or other issues. So again, in summary, an investment-friendly network of utmost importance to us. Digital infrastructure, I think, of utmost importance for the region. We are very much committed, actually, having these investment-friendly investment conditions to continue our investments, which we have done in the past in the same pace, but we need investment-friendly environment. We are committed to continue networking both on a technical layer, as we do it every day, but also on a personal level, which we can do today. The Vienna Economic Forum is a very good forum to do that. I'm hence very pleased to looking forward to this event. I'm very excited about the following conversation about economic growth, about investments in the region, about the question how to come up out of this crisis. Thank you very much again for joining, and it's a pleasure hosting you today, either physically or digitally on the stream.
We will now hand the word to Dr. Kircheva. Please, the stage is yours, Dr. Kircheva.
Secretary of State Dojan. I'm very privileged to address all of you today, and here in the headquarters of AIS Telekom Austria Group, I have as my neighbor from the right side, Mr. Arnold, who is the CEO of the host, and on my left side is the President of Vienna Economic Forum, Mr. Undum. We are all of them in the hall. We have the members of the board of Vienna Economic Forum, and we are here because what brings us all together is our common goal, to do our part for an economically better and secure life of the people from the region. Being the pro-European economic platform with headquarters in Vienna, Vienna Economic Forum is always proud to cooperate with the European Commission to initiate and to support different initiatives in accordance with the WEF own objectives. Thank you, Commissioner Vaheli, to share today with us the main objectives of the economic and investment plan for the countries from the Western Balkans. All of them, they are member countries of Vienna Economic Forum. Thank you, dear Prime Minister Zaev, to being a long-standing patron and reliable partner in our constant work under the motto, economy meets politics. Allow me to share with you, Prime Minister Zaev, we from Vienna Economic Forum believe in the importance of the West Balkans, not only for the region and not only for the European Union, but for the whole world from a geopolitical point of view, believe me. Thank you, Secretary of State, Mr. Dojan, to participate on behalf of Prime Minister Janša, who is for third time patron of the Economic Forum, and for giving us the confidence that the West Balkan countries will be also in the focus of the Slovenian EU presidency in the next second half of the year. Vienna Economic Forum is also very proud to have an excellent cooperation with the Energy Community Secretary in Vienna and to cooperate also with the new established Western Balkan Sixth Chamber Western Forum with headquarters in Trieste. I wish all of us very constructive and good discussions. I'm very pleased to give the word to the President of the Economic Forum, Mr. Umundum.
Madam General Secretary, thank you very much. Thomas, thank you very much for the opening speech. Excellencies, Commissioner, board members, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Vienna Economic Talks in the name of Vienna Economic Forum. I think the main goal of the Vienna Economic Forum is to connect Europe and to support the business relationship within Europe, especially in southern Eastern Europe. I think today's focus, first of all, will be the economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans. But I think we should also discuss how we can improve the business relationship between European Union and the Western Balkans. We should try to answer two questions. First, how can politics and European Union give a framework to support the development of the economy in this region? But we also want to present you later on some examples of members and partners of the Vienna Economic Forum for business ideas in this region. It's a pleasure to hear the view of the Commissioner, the State Secretary, the Prime Minister. I'm very interested in their opinions. Thanks to you that you're here. Thanks to all speakers. Thanks to the CEO, Thomas Arnolder and Heinz. Thank you very much for being here. And thank you very much, General Secretary, Mrs. Kečeva, and your team for organizing this very great event. And I'm very interested and hope of fruitful discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Umundum. We will now switch to EU Commissioner Oliver Vaheli for Neighborhood and Enlargement. Please let's welcome him together in the Vienna Economic Talk. Do we have a connection?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear Prime Minister, dear participants, thank you very much for the opportunity to address the Vienna Economic Talks and also the very high interest shown towards the Western Balkans. There is no need to explain to the business community in Vienna and in Central Europe the reasons for our engagement with the Western Balkans. As you know very well, bringing the whole region into the European Union is in our best interest. The political and economic logic that underpins the European Union applies equally to the Western Balkans, and it is the European Commission's clear objective to accelerate their integration. Economically, the Western Balkans and the EU are already deeply linked, I would say even integrated. Last year, 68% of the region's trade was with the European Union, and because of the preferential trade agreements, this is mostly tariff-free trade. And thanks to many of you and your companies, the EU is also the source of more than 60% of the region's foreign direct investments. Being so closely interconnected, the region currently faces similar challenges as the rest of us. The disruptions brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic have led to recessions throughout the region, with countries dependent on tourism affected particularly hard and the most. This is why the Commission is applying the same growth strategy that was put in place for the EU to the Western Balkans: large-scale investments. The economic and investment plan we launched last autumn is our recovery plan for the Western Balkans. The plan puts forward... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. The plan puts forward up to 28 billion euros of funding and leveraging investments in areas of connectivity of transport, energy, digital and green transition to create sustainable growth and jobs. The plan lays the ground to open up many business opportunities for European companies. Firstly, there are significant investments in sustainable transport infrastructure. We want to remove traffic bottlenecks for roads and rail along key European transport corridors and help to connect all the capitals of the region and the region to the EU better through rails and roads. Our message is clear. The EU is offering the best possible conditions for major investments, not only through a mix of grants, guarantees and preferential loans from our international financing institutions, but also know-how when it comes to implementation of these investment projects. This is the best way to avoid that our partners end up with unfavorable loans from third countries, as it was the case, for instance, in Montenegro. Serbia's recent decision to work with the EU on financing and implementing the upgrading of a section of the Rail Corridor 10 proves the attractiveness of the EU's offer. The railway line linking Salzburg with Thessaloniki is an essential part of the extended EU Trans-European network. Secondly, we are upgrading the energy infrastructure. In the Western Balkans, major support is needed for cleaning the energy transition. 1.5 billion euros have been earmarked for these investments. Economic development needs security of energy supply, energy efficiency, and competitive energy prices. For example, we will finance gas interconnectors that can bring alternative gas supplies to the region that are much needed alongside renewable energy sources like hydrogen as part of the timely phase-out of coal from the energy sector. We will also finance electricity interconnections within the region and with the EU. Once completed, this will enable better cross-border trade, allowing for more attractive prices and allow for a higher penetration of renewable energy while maintaining grid stability. Thirdly, we are helping the Western Balkans accelerate the digital and green transition. This requires substantial investments in digital infrastructure, such as broadband internet connections. We need to connect all the capitals with broadband high-speed internet connections and networks to improve the region's access to digital goods and services and maximize the growth potential of the digital economy. The Western Balkans will introduce Roam Like at Home this July, eliminating roaming fees within the region. This is a big achievement that shows the Western Balkans are able to deliver together tangible results for their people. We are now working towards agreeing on a roadmap for lowering of roaming charges between the region and the EU, which will open up additional opportunities for businesses and services. Additionally, many business opportunities in the Western Balkans will emerge from our support to the region and its vivid SMEs ecosystem in addressing environmental and climate challenges. The Green Agenda for the Western Balkans is our shared proposal in that respect because we are supporting, first of all, the decarbonization of the economy, second, the sustainable and smart mobility solutions, and third, the better resource efficiency based on circular economy model. Many of these initiatives, for example, the renovation wave, will offer plenty of opportunities for European businesses and investors with expertise and know-how in sustainable technologies and green solutions. Moreover, the region's natural wealth has also a great economic potential through sustainable tourism and responsible farming. Finally, yet it is very important to underline that we are investing in the human capital. The Economic and Investment Plan will assist our partners in reforming their employment policies, better matching education and training with the needs of the labour market and businesses. Through the establishment of the Western Balkans Youth Guarantee in every partner economy, based on the implementation of the successful EU Youth Guarantee, we will help governments to offer each young person in the region a chance to work, train, practice or study, especially at the time when the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the whole labour market. We hope this will reduce the brain drain from the region and provide a qualified and motivated workforce ready to contribute to the growth of their economy. Let me also mention here that besides the policymakers, we will need the companies as well to support all these goals. As the pandemic is crucially affecting our global value chains, we need to reconfigure our production. We think that the Western Balkans can offer a perfect nearshoring opportunities, as we call it. So European businesses and investors can opt for it when they are ready to diversify their suppliers and move production facilities closer to the EU market. In parallel with the above-mentioned investments, we're continuously engaging with the governments in the region to make further progress on the rule of law and governance. This is essential for them not only to make the best use of substantial financial support, but also to be able to offer investors a stable and predictable climate and legal foundations for their successful setup and operation in the Western Balkans. Last but not least, we're also looking at ways to integrate more and more closely with the Western Balkans in the EU's single market. This means that in certain sectors, we would like to see the Western Balkans to participate in EU policies even before they become EU members. In parallel, we are supporting the region in removing barriers to businesses within the Western Balkans. The common regional market, based on EU rules and standards, which the governments of the region are currently building, has an enormous potential. We're talking here about very down-to-earth action that will make life easier for the businesses in the Western Balkans, such as removing work permits, free movement of people with identity cards, removing unnecessary compliance certificates for goods already checked, recognition of diplomas, or removing barriers to e-commerce. All of this is critical to increase the attractiveness of the region for investors and to help the local businesses. I am confident that all these developments will benefit the people of the region as more opportunities will arise, which is greatly needed. And not only that, but this will accelerate the integration of the region into the European Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Vahey. Thank you very much for the interesting insights and certainly for the food of thought. into the economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans. Thank you very much. We are now connecting to Ljubljana, and it's my special welcome to welcome Mr. Kaspar Dojan, State Secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Slovenia, who on behalf of Prime Minister Janez Janša will talk on the expectations on EIP from a point of view of the forthcoming Slovenian presidency of the Council of the European Union in the second half of 2021.
Good day to everyone.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dojan. And
Good
welcome.
afternoon. Good afternoon. First of all, thank you for giving me the floor. I'd like to excuse Prime Minister, who is unfortunately not available at the moment because there's a session of the government going on this particular time, deliberating on new COVID measures. So let me focus in my address on three topics. First, generally thoughts on the Western Balkans, then our plans during presidency and our views on the economic investment plan for the Western Balkans. So first, let me start with the general observations on the region. Sustainable development, stability and prosperity of the Western Balkans are in the vital and strategic interest of Slovenia and of the EU. The region is part of Europe. It is surrounded by EU member states. So when we discuss issues related to the future of our continent, we should not and we cannot neglect the region. It is only the geography that, of course, it is not only the geography that unites us. There's a European way of life that we all want to share, and there are challenges that are common to all of us. For example, migrations, climate change, challenges related to new technologies, digitalization, cyber, new industrial strategies, strategic autonomy, etc. We therefore need a strategic approach towards the Western Balkans. And what do I mean by that? Firstly, we need to fully grasp the fact that before mentioned issues can only be successfully addressed together, and that the EU's geopolitical ambitions can only be realized through stable and Europeanized Western Balkans. And secondly, we need to start using the European perspective and the EU enlargement process not only as a technical process for the promotion of technical reforms, but also as a political tool for securing the EU's influence in the region. All our actions and activities in the region should be conducted under the umbrella of the enlargement framework and with the clear goal of bringing the region closer to the EU and ultimately inside the EU. My second point, and here I would like to briefly present the plans during our presidency as regards the Western Balkans. We will focus on three interconnected pillars. We'll try to give a boost to a credible continuation of the EU enlargement process. It is fundamentally important to start the negotiations with North Macedonia and Albania as soon as possible, and to open new chapters with Serbia and Montenegro. At the same time, we'll be focusing on the implementation of the economic and investment plan, and therefore on deepening of cooperation with the region in the areas of mutual interest. And thirdly, Slovenia will offer to the EU's institutions its knowledge, ideas, and good personal connections with the region in order to make further steps in searching for solutions on the remaining open issues such as Belgrade and Pristina dialogue and the future of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And here I come to my third, the last point. How does the economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans fit in this framework? As I've mentioned already, we see it almost as, or certainly, a valuable tool that complements the enlargement methodology and accession process. It is a tool that should speed up the economic recovery, promote socio-economic development, and contribute to greater convergence as regards to the economic systems. We are especially satisfied that the plan pays a lot of attention to the issue of building a positive perspective for the youth. During our presidency, we will strive to strengthen connectivity in the areas of transport, energy, digitalization, environmental sustainability, and the promotion of green technology. Special attention will be paid to decarbonization in the region and green lanes concept. We will also seek to strengthen cooperation on research and innovation, including by countries of the region joining the Horizon Europe program, which will accelerate the integration of the region into the European research area. And last but not least, we believe that our enlargement with the Western Balkans should include more action-oriented and unified approach towards cyber capacity building and cyber cooperation with Western Balkans. And let me conclude with a promise that Slovenian presidency and the whole government will take all these issues a high priority in the second half of the year, and strategic use of the enlargement policy, as well as the implementation of the economic and investment plan, will be part of the agenda of the EU West.
Thank you very much, Mr. State Secretary Dotan. Thank you very much for joining us online and for sharing your clear expectations. We will now be connecting to Brussels and welcome His Excellency, Prime Minister of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Zoran Zaev. Prime Minister Zaev will be stating the point of view of North Macedonia on EIP, as well as on the near mid-term expectations, naming the main government appointment structures in charge in terms of implementation in order to enable interested foreign investors to closely follow their working progress. Do we have a connection to Brussels? Prime Minister Zaev?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ви благодарам многу. Навистина е ова добра можност. Почитуван господин Томас Арнолдер, извршен директор на групацијата А1 Телеком Австрија и домаќин на овој настан на Виенскиот економски форум. Почитуван господин Петар Умундум, председател на Виенскиот економски форум. Почитуван господин Довжан, државен секретар за надворешни работи на нашата пријателска Република Словенија. Почитуван господин Оливер Вархеј, еврокомесар за соседска политика и проширување на ЕУ, господја Кирчанова, и почитувани дами и господа, учесници на Виенскиот економски форум, драги пријатели. Ми представува посебна чест што оваа година заедно со Словенија имаме привилегија да бидеме патрони на ова издание на Виенскиот економски форум, посветен на Европскиот инвестициски план за Западен Балкан. Словенија е еден од најголемите поддржувачи на нашиот евроинтеграцијски пат и навистина е задоволство да се биде патрони заедно со нив, особено кога тие се подготвуваат за председателството со ЕУ на почетокот на јули оваа година и нивниот фокус е на земјите од Западен Балкан за натамошен успех на нашиот интеграцијски процес во текот на нивното председателствување. Виенскиот економски форум е исклучително успешен и остварува својата мисија да биде точка за унапредување на регионалната економска соработка на земјите од Западен Балкан и Југоисточна Европа. Особено е важно што форумот на најкреативен и инспиративен начин ги поврзува политиките на владите од регионот и нивните амбиции и заложбите помеѓу представниците на бизнис заедниците на земјите од овој дел на Европа. Истовремено, Виенскиот економски форум е мост кој што ги поврзува развојните програми на државите од Западен Балкан и Југоисточна Европа со представници на европските и светските предприемачи кои имаат интерес за бизнис иницијативи во овие региони. Во последните 4 години Виенскиот економски форум ги интензивираше своите активности за популаризација и за промоција на можностите за инвестирање во регионот од Јадранот до Црното море и стана место на кое што се дефинираат потенцијалите за остварување ефекти од реализацијата на јавните и приватните интереси во врска со различните проекти во регионот како дел од европеизацијата на регионот. Ова го нагласувам како многу важно затоа што се совпадна со интензивирањето на евроинтеграцијските агенди на земјите од Западен Балкан во подготовката за финалните чекори за пристапување кон Европската Унија. Се разбира, ова посебно се однесува на Република Северна Македонија, која е предолго оставена пред вратите на ЕУ, иако ги исполни сите услови за почеток на преговорите по поглавја за членство во ЕУ, што е безусловно потврдено од Европската комисија, како и од огромното мнозинство на земјите членки уште во март 2020-та. Во оваа прилика сакам да им се заблагодарам на сите земји членки на ЕУ, кои ни ја даваат безрезервната поддршка овој процес да започне уште во текот на актуелното председателство на Португалија со ЕУ. Комесарот Вархеи е наш комесар и се обидува да ни помогне на сите нам за да го продолжиме нашиот процес за евроинтеграција. Почитувани гости, фокусот на вниманието на Европскиот инвестициски план кон Западен Балкан на овој настан на Виенскиот економски форум е од исклучителна важност. Доаѓа во вистинско време, кога земјите од регионот се подготвуваат за пост-ковид периодот на рехабилитација и на обнова и нов поттик на растечките економски трендови, кои се успорени или запрени заради влијанието и последиците од пандемијата. Кога беше најавен економскиот инвестициски план, се соочувавме со третиот бран на пандемијата и ние се организиравме како економија, како да го искористиме ова, да ги мотивираме нашите капитални инвестиции со парите резервирани за Западен Балкан, да го искористиме овој потенцијал во домашната економија, нашиот домашен потенцијал, но и на странските инвестиции. И креиравме дополнителни 6 милиарди евра. Тоа е плюс на она што ќе го добиеме како дел од Западен Балкан. Затоа ние ги охрабруваме сите да искористат кризата како потенцијал, како можност. И се надеваме дека нашите резултати досега се добар пример, дека нашата економија, но и економиите на Западниот Балкан се во добра состојба. И ќе закрепнат од пандемијата и економската криза која што се случуваше паралелно. Например, во првите 4 месеци за оваа година имаме 22% раст во нашите приходи во споредба со минатата година, односно 4% во споредба со првите 4 месеци од 2019 година. Извозот ни е за 30% поголем од првиот квартал во 2020-та, односно 40% поголем од првиот квартал во 2018-та. Тоа значи дека нашата економија е многу поотпорна од онаа на Европската Унија. Зошто? Затоа што е многу флексибилна, затоа и многу странски инвеститори се тука и работат со поголем профит, со одржлив профит. Зошто? Затоа што имаме многу ниски трошоци, но ниски даноци, низок трошок на чинење на материјалите и ние сите учествуваме во економијата. Со овој план ние имаме 3,5 милиони евра инвестиции во приватниот сектор, работиме на правична транзиција и не подоцна од 2019 имавме во план да ги затвориме сите термоелектрани. Го започнавме тој процес многу успешно и во моментов започнуваме процес за фотоволтаици, за хидроцентрали и за ветерници и дополнително на тоа имаме неколку инвестиции во енергетскиот сектор. Заедно со сето ова што се случува со економскиот инвестициски план од Европската Унија, она што го спомена комесарот Вархеи, а тоа се интерконекторите со Грција, Србија и Косово, ќе го победиме монополот за газ и ќе имаме 3 нови понуди за газ од Азербејџан, Катар, ликвиден природен газ од САД, нешто што би требало да биде иднината на североисточна Европа. Во овие услови, главните инвестиции се фокусираат на газот, но и други инфраструктурни конекции со европските земји, затоа што тоа е воглавно европска инфраструктура, како што каже и државниот секретар на Словенија. Ние сме како еден своевиден остров. Обкружени сме со другите европски земји и сме дел од Европа. Во таа насока, ние целосно сме приспособени со стратегијата и плановите на Европската Унија и сакаме да бидеме и поуспешни од некои од земјите членки. Тоа е позитивна конкуренција и сакаме да им покажеме на земјите членки на Европската Унија и на нивните граѓани дека ние целосно ги следиме европските одлуки и сме усогласени со европските процеси. Во таа насока, Европскиот економски инвестициски план доаѓа во вистински момент за да ни понуди излез од оваа економска катастрофа што ни се случи поради пандемијата и е добро време за заживување и да се продолжи напред кон она што сакаме да го сакавме да го постигнеме пред пандемијата. И сметам дека Западниот Балкан и сите ние заедно ќе бидеме добар пример за тоа како ги следиме европските политики, ќе бидеме добар пример за инвестиции во обновливи извори, во инфраструктура и за тоа како добро може да се помогне на економијата на европскиот континент. Сега би сакал и да заклучам со Европскиот инвестициски план, што распредели до 9 милиарди евра за целиот регион. Во следните неколку години ќе создадеме солидна основа за идните перспективи на регионот. Јас сум оптимист дека инвестициите во областите на транспорт, на енергија, зелена и дигитална транзиција ќе создадат одржлив раст и работни места за нашите млади луѓе кои што сакаме да ги задржиме тука во нашиот регион. Ви благодарам на сите и ви посакувам успешни резултати од работењето на Виенскиот економски форум. Ви благодарам.
For now, Mr. Prime Minister Zaev, we will be seeing you back a little bit later for a second statement. Thank you. I am pleased to now give the word to Mr. Yanis Kopac, Director of the Energy Committee Secretariat, to present the challenges of energy transmission with EIP and beyond. The stage is yours, Mr. Kopac.
Thanks a lot. I'm very happy to be a speaker after Prime Minister Zaev because with his optimism and enthusiasm, and I have to say that North Macedonia is the country which I think best manages challenges of energy transition in the region, which I will try to briefly explain now. European Union went on the path of decarbonization, and Western Balkans is committed to follow. There was Sofia Declaration with many important elements. I'm talking only about energy, carbon pricing, phase out of state aid to coal, adoption of climate laws, adoption of national energy and climate plans, where I have to say North Macedonia is just about to finish it as the first one in the region. And this is very important in this region, which is so heavily reliant on coal. You see that more than 60% of all generation of electricity in the region is out of coal. And there are even two projects ongoing currently, one in Bosnia and Herzegovina, one in Serbia. Many of thermal power plants have to be refurbished, and currently no one country except North Macedonia published or announced coal phase out. Coal subsidies are the lowest hanging fruit. In 2019, you see 73 million euros of cash in budgets was given to coal sector. It means to coal power plants and mines. And this could be, of course, diverted into something more sustainable. Exposure of public finances to coal projects is, at least in case of Bosnia and Herzegovina, even increasing. You see, it's 6% of GDP. In other countries, it's going down quite fast. Important, not so easy or not so low-hanging fruit is a price signal for cost-effective energy transition. You see that industry in Western Balkans is paying, compared to EU, approximately similar prices if we deduct taxes. But household prices are far from being similar. There are some countries which are more closer to the EU average, but some are far away, and this doesn't give a proper price signal. But I know it's politically sensitive. Another low-hanging fruit would be efficient usage of interconnectors. You see that many interconnections, existing electricity cables, are not utilized enough, unfortunately. And there is a regulation in European Union which says that at least 70% of all capacities have to be offered for the trade. This percentage in the region is unfortunately much lower. This could be easily overcome. But these are all, let's say, manageable things. But a big conundrum are CO2 prices. Our countries, Western Balkan countries, are on the same single European energy market. There is no carbon pricing in European Union. Carbon price this year jumped on 50 euros per ton. This is approximately 50 euros per megawatt hour. And if we, I'm trying to move this further, but it's somehow blocked. I just want to say that this non-charged tax or carbon price, in some cases, for example, you see in Kosovo, is equal to 4.5% of GDP this year. In other countries, it is lower. So the gap is growing, and something needs to be done. This something is introduction of carbon pricing. But this carbon pricing cannot be very fast, because this would kill the economies. So it has to be gradual. We proposed a scenario I will not go more into the detail. And this scenario, which proposed by the Secretariat, envisages that individual countries would have relatively long gradual periods to cope with this challenge. For example, I don't know, to take an example of North Macedonia, we think it should be somewhere around 2030. For Kosovo, even later. Simply, they cannot cope with this so fast. And this is the last slide. What is happening? Carbon border adjustment mechanism is being prepared in European Union. Commission will present the proposal in July this year. We don't know what will be written into it, but if it will be very strict, it could be somehow harmful for further integration of electricity markets. And green taxonomy is entering into force. There will be no more financing, bank financing of coal projects from 1st of January next year on. And what could be the proper steps? Carbon pricing now, at least a little bit, gradually, divert it or collect incomes in separate national climate funds. This income shall be used not only for things which are for which it is used in European Union, energy efficiency, renewable, sustainable transport, but also for coal regions in transition. This is the biggest challenge, politically very sensitive. And such design would allow to engage also European Union and other donors through a governance structure of such national climate funds, which would develop a pipeline of bankable projects. More about this in a separate publication from the Secretariat, not to take too much time today. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kopacz. We will now open the floor for Engineer Peter Omandom, who is President of the Vienna Economic Forum, member of the Management Board, Parcel Service and Logistics of the Austrian Post. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I think additional to the investment plan of the European Union, we need concrete business areas for further strengthening the relationship within European Union and non-European Union member states, especially for the southern, eastern and eastern region. And I think one of these business areas could be the e-commerce market. Commissioner Veheli mentioned it already at the beginning. Maybe let me start with some figures. Out of this area, the e-commerce revenue almost doubled since the last 4 years. From 2017 to this year, it will rise to 63 billion euros revenue, coming from 32. Maybe very interesting for Prime Minister Zaev, maybe you know these numbers. North Macedonia is number 3 in growth rates in this area. Plus 208% in these last 4 years shows this very interesting market. In the meantime, more than 100 million e-commerce users are working in this region day by day in e-commerce. And what we see also in Austria, and I think it's the same also in the whole region, more than 50% is cross-border business. So these international trade lines are very important. And what you also see, there is a plus of more than 10% expected in the next couple of years in this area. So the short summary is e-commerce, it is a very international business and it's very, very fast growing. And that also, if you see the market penetration in US, UK or China, and you see the actual market penetration in Eastern, Southeastern Europe, also in Austria, there is a lot of growth potential in this area. What do we need in this business area now? And I'm happy that Commissioner Veheli mentioned it already at the beginning, a lot of these very important topics. I think we have to prepare the infrastructure now. Infrastructure is first of all IT networks, it's 5G, and it's logistic infrastructure. We need a fair competition. I think with the 1st of July this year, there's also a very good step is done with new rules of customs. That means for equal competition in this area for all the states. We need an easy customs clearance between European Union and non-European member states. I think we have to have a fair taxation in e-commerce for national and for international players. And already mentioned in some speeches before, we have to prepare sustainable logistics. That means railways, that means e-mobility, that means also to prepare hydrogen mobility. I think if these topics are done, there is a big chance coming out of this area. So let's maybe take e-commerce as a role model, and then I'm sure that would help in developing economy in the whole area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Omondom. The next words are coming from Dr. Gabriel Lansky, partner of Lansky Gansker and partner and member of the board of Vienna Economic Forum. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner, Prime Minister, dear colleagues from the board of Vienna Economic Forum. It is correct for us as Vienna Economic Forum and as Viennese businessman and politician to commemorate 30 years of the beginning of the conflict in former Yugoslavia this year. It is a good moment to apt the opportunity to put the forces on the European Union economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans. The past years have seen enormous progress in economic and business development in the countries of the region, and we do speak and we can speak of a widely successful transformation of the economies in the countries of Western Balkan. And it is the European Union as the most important partner in both directions from the Western Balkans. And we do have to appreciate, and I'm saying this also in the presence of the Commissioner, we do have to accept that these countries do have important business relationship to other regions like China or Russia. Yes, of course, till you are a member of the club, and you need to be very quickly a member of our club, you have the liberty to be open for partners, and we are, as a European Union, in a geopolitical competence, and we have to actively support our friends in the Western Balkans, bearing in mind that it needs to be integrated economy, and we are in a geopolitical competition. And of course, we do have the right to ask our partner countries in the Western Balkans to play by European rules, as rules of laws if FDI is wanted, which is the case. And we do observe, of course, some cases in which European and general rules of law are to be obeyed, and it is very necessary so. Still, there are great challenges left, and the economic and investment plan correctly puts the focus on some points which I want to mention just very shortly, which is, as I said before, good governance and regional integration and integration with the European Union as the foundation for sustainable growth. The European Union plan provides the region with a substantial investment package to modernize the transport infrastructure and to promote clean energy and digitalization, as we already discussed today. We are very optimistic that this common way is going to be followed with a lot of success, and I think that we can be proud as Vienna Economic Talks that we have been instrumental to achieve these goals in the last years as a platform, and we are going to go on with this role, hopefully in the next years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lansky. We are now connecting to Belgrade. Mr. Marko Čadež, President of the Managing Board of Western Balkan SIF, is represented by Mr. Mihailo Vesovic, Director of the Sector for Strategic Analysis, Services and Internationalization of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Serbia. Mr. Vesovic will bring up the main points of view of the joint initiative of Chamber of Commerce and Industry on EIP in terms of its practical implementation and to point out to the most common areas of interest signalized so far by the large Western Balkan civ business community in relation to EIP. Welcome, Mr. Vesovic. Do we have a connection to Belgrade? We have lost the connection to Belgrade, unfortunately. We will try later again. So we can continue, and I'm opening the floor to Dr. Georg Bucher, member of the board of Steiermärkische Bank und Sparkassen AG and cooperation partner of Vienna Economic Forum, to bring up his experience in the banking sector of the Western Balkan 6. The floor is yours, Dr. Bucher.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, Excellencies. Ladies and gentlemen, let me cluster my statements maybe in three topics. First, our presence in the region. We started in the year 1997, Steiermärkische Sparkasse together with Erste Group. We are serving in the region in the meantime over 2 million clients with 6,000 employees and a balance sheet. Mr. Arnolda mentioned the share in the net profit. Our share in Graz and Steiermärkische Sparkasse out of this region is already 40%. So it is, beside our retail and corporate division, the international division, an important part of our income side in Steiermärkische Sparkasse. What we have seen, the clients in the region are very loyal clients. We have clients there on very long-term basis, stable basis, having a wide range of products with us, which is always a compliment to the financial institution that they want, that they rely on us. So we never ever regretted our steps into this region many years ago. And we are there, I always say, we are there to stay. We are not there to sell and to go away. We want to invest there together with Erste Group and further develop our business. Second short point, also thanks to our host, I had to follow a merger in North Macedonia. We bought the subsidiary of Société Générale 1.5 years ago, and 1 year ago, if you would have asked me if we can manage a merger on a remote basis, I would have doubted. Yes, it worked, and hopefully, keep finger crossed, in mid of July we will finish the merger and then we will have one bank. So the whole digital infrastructure, the connectivity in those markets is already on a quite high level. And thank you to your industry. You have a fair share and an important share in this to reach this goal. Second, what is really for me also very positive to see, and I give you 2 examples. We mentioned the infrastructure and transport part in Croatia with other banks. We just financed a public-private partnership on highway to Istria. So we all will benefit out of that in a couple of years. And the Prime Minister mentioned, Prime Minister Zaev mentioned before, the green economy, 50 kilometers southeast of Skopje. We just finished a wind park project, and there will be more to follow and more to come. So the third part is a kind of some personal remarks. The resilience, and I think you mentioned it also before, the resilience of those countries in the crisis last year was enormous. I was really surprised on the level of support even those countries were able to give to the economy based on a lower level of indebtedness than other countries in Europe. I think the basis was also a very solid basis, but this basis has been built in the last years. So I'm really positive that the outcome of this crisis and the recovery in those countries in the next years will be a very solid one and a stable one. So I'm very positive looking into the future. The second point is we have a couple of general political remarks in the last years, and we heard some of them today, and we all understand fully that this region is targeted by the European Union as core part in their enlargement policy. But please, beside these high-level political statements, we need, and the region needs, really concrete steps, concrete time plans, and open communication about those things which the countries with the European Commission have positively achieved. Normally, diplomacy works behind closed doors, I know that. But for the young people there and for the brain drain topic, we need open communication about those steps and about early wins and positive results which have been achieved. In countless discussions, I think we all traveling in the region, we all hear those remarks, doubts at the moment from young people where it goes to end. I think we need to take those doubts of the young people in the region really, really serious in order to support those countries. And I hope that the second half of this year will bring those concrete calendar and time plans, especially for North Macedonia and Albania, but also continuing the already existing discussions with Serbia and Montenegro. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bucher. We will try again to connect to Belgrade. Mr. Vesovic, are you with us? No? So let's try to switch back to Brussels, where His Excellency Mr. Prime Minister Zaev will be stating the point of view of North Macedonia to the interest in comments on concrete projects. The floor is yours, Mr. Prime Minister.
Ви благодарам. Ќе се обидам да објаснам она што е важно, меѓутоа исто така и да направам една атмосфера овде во Северна Македонија. Ова е моје второ обраќање денес на Виенскиот форум за економскиот и инвестициски план за Западен Балкан. Сакам да споделам информации за проекти од листата поднесена во Северна Македонија во тек на вториот повик за инвестиции во Западен Балкан во однос на инвестицискиот и економскиот план на ЕУ. Постојат неколку апликации во нашата држава во моментот. Се подготвуваме за следната. 2 од нив се за техничка помош, а 5 се за инвестициски грантови. Од овие проекти за техничка помош се пречистителна станица за градот Скопје со пречистителна станица во 2 фази и изградба на гасоводот. Имаме инвестициски проекти, сите се во категорија на А проекти од економски и инвестициски план. За првиот имаме пречистителна станица за градот Скопје. Тоа е проект со вредност со 71,3 милиони евра. Добивме проект за проектирање и изградба на централна пречистителна станица за отпадни води во 2 фази. Ова е голема инвестиција на државата во градот Скопје. Вториот е изградба на дел од железницата на коридор 8, Крива Паланка Деве Бајр, кој ќе го поврзува Скопје со Софија и е дел од коридорот кој ја поврзува Италија, Албанија, Северна Македонија, Бугарија и Истанбул во Турција. Третиот проект е воспоставување на интегриран и финансиски самоодржлив регионален систем за депонија на Полошкиот регион. Тоа е северно-западниот дел од државата, најголемиот дел од државата. Четвртиот е проект за соларна фотонапонска централа во Битола, Битола 1, кој што вклучително ќе има дополнителни 10 мегавати за Осломе 2 и петиот проект е набавка и инсталација на 10 мегаватни фотоволтаици за Осломе 1. Во оваа насока и во обидите на државата да се справи со пандемијата, која што беше голем предизвик за сите држави во светот, на светско ниво, навистина е чест да ги објавам овие нови инвестиции и новите вработувања кои што ќе настанат како резултат од нив. Сепак во годината во која се соочивме со корона кризата, ние имаме нови 12 странски директни инвестиции кои се во фаза на реализација. Во моментот имаме 34 капацитети во собственост на странски инвеститори од САД, Канада, Кина, Германија, Италија, Турција и други држави, меѓутоа и инвестиции од останати други држави кои што оперираат во овие зони и тие оствариле приближно 3,4 милиони евра во извоз во 2020, што е еднакво на 47% од вкупниот извоз на Северна Македонија за овие индустријски зони. До сега овие компании имаат инвестирано приближно 1 милиарда евра во технолошко-индустријските развојни зони. Ние раскажуваме оваа приказна како успешна. Тоа се случи поради новиот пристап на владата за поддршка и промовирање на нови инвестиции кои се фокусираат на високо квалитетни инвестиции кои носат повисока дадена вредност на земјата, остваруваат добар профит и со тоа придонесуваат кон државниот буџет, создавајќи при тоа стабилни и добро платени работни места и ангажирање на повеќе локални капацитети во рамките на синџирите на набавки. Ова значи дека нашата држава е примамлива за странските инвеститори и општо за сите. Ова наметнува дека овој пристап вклучува и едношалтерски систем, со што ние ја следиме меѓународната пракса за да се осигураме дека и инвеститорите ќе имаат корист. Ова наметнува дека од инвеститорите се бара да прикажат 10 годишни проекции за приходи, профит, вработувања и плати врз основа на кои владата работи на поединечни планови за субвенционирање, кои што ќе бидат представени пред и за кои ќе се преговара со инвеститорот. Меѓу субвенциите што ги нудиме како стандарден пакет, владата нуди и до 50% државна поддршка во период од најмалку 10 години. Тоа значи дека секој инвеститор ќе може во првите 10 години да достигне 10% корпоративна такса до 0 корпоративна такса или данок. Во првите 10 години ќе имаме 0% на личен персонален данок. Директно интензивирани со буџетски инвестиции. Значи, ако инвестицијата е 10 милиони евра, веднаш се добиваат 1 милион, односно 10%. Други 10% ќе зависат од други критериуми, колку работни места ќе се отворат, дали ќе има извоз, дали ќе биде покриен проектот и други критериуми. Постои и инвестицијата во R&D, истражување и развој, до 50% од инвестициите се од директниот буџет на инвеститорите. Ова значи дека овие процеси ќе бидат мощни, атрактивни за инвеститорите во нашата држава. Ќе имаме корист дури и кога фабриките во Австрија, Германија, Швајцарија, Полска ќе ги намалат или ќе ги прекинат нивните производствени процеси, тие ќе продолжат овде во Северна Македонија, затоа што процесите се мощни, изводливи. Ќе имаме производствени процеси во развојните технолошки зони и инвестиција до 45% од вкупниот удел во националниот извоз, како и 6 до 8% удел во националниот БДП. Значи, економијата во зоните во првиот квартал во 2021 година порасна за 30% во споредба со истиот период пред 2 години во овој период и 41% во споредба со 2018 подобар и поголем извоз. Тоа е рекорд кој што во изминатите 4 години се случи. Значи, тоа се случи во текот на третиот бран на коронавирусот или пандемијата. Позитивниот тренд продолжува и во април. Имаме во првите 5 месеци од оваа година подпишано 5 нови договори со тековни нови инвеститори и вредноста на овие договори надминува 65 милиони евра во инвестициски обем. Значи, имаме дури за време на пандемијата компании во зоната кои што одржаа стабилен број на вработени, повеќе од 14.000 луѓе вработени и во моментот се забележува растечки тренд во оваа насока. Во моментов 22 компании, тековни потенцијални инвеститори, официјално ги искажаа своите намери за инвестиција и веќе во тек се преговори со вкупна инвестицијска вредност од повеќе од 300 милиони евра и нов план за 5500 нови работни места. Половина од нив се од фармацевтската индустрија, а отвораме и нови можности за другите сектори, кои што не се автомобилската индустрија, која е сепак главен сектор во зоните. Во следните недели очекуваме затворање на најголемиот договор за странска директна инвестиција во Северна Македонија со инвестиција поголема од 100 милиони евра. Тоа ме води до крајот на ова мое обраќање. Исто така развиваме и алатки за привлекување на инвестиции. Она што го усвоивме во собранието е за стратешки инвестиции и беше објавено веднаш по објавувањето на законот кој што го имаме во нашата држава. Тој овозможува брза примена и посебен примен на поддршка и гарантирани инвестиции за проекти од јавен интерес за инвестиции од минимум 100 милиони евра на државно ниво, за инвестиции од минимум 50 милиони евра на ниво на град и за инвестиции до 30 милиони евра во други рурални области во државата. Ова е брз начин за инвестиции. Тоа значи дека кога проектот ќе има брзо постапување, тогаш се ќе биде овозможено се до имплементација на овие проекти. На тој начин се адаптираме на новонастанатите ситуации. Господинот Копач спомена пример за многу австријски, многу германски компании од Франција, Италија и од други европски држави кои што се присутни овде и кои што започнуваат со инвестиции во фотоволтаици, во областа на енергетиката, како и други проекти, како например Чебране, кој што е 700 милиони евра вреден проект. Постојат 9 компании од целиот свет, од кои што 5 се од Европската Унија, кои што имаат намера да бидат наш партнер во овие проекти, односно во овој проект. Меѓутоа постојат и неколку кои ќе бидат вклучени во изградбата на новата електрана. Привлекуваме многу инвестиции на различен начин и од различни држави. Споменав само еден, WPD од Германија, кој што е поддржан од Австриската банка, се однесува на стратешко партнерство со нас за инвестиција од 400 мегавати, што изнесува 500.000 евра вредна инвестиција. Ќе сопрам овде со податоците. Сакам да ви заблагодарам за можноста да се обратам и да ги споделам овие податоци за вашиот интерес, затоа што се обидуваме да бидеме добар пример за она што се случува на вакво ниво и во насока на економски примери кои што доаѓаат од Северна Македонија и се на најдобар пат да одат кон европските процеси. Ви благодарам.
Mr. Prime Minister Zaev, and for being with us this afternoon. And a small correction, you were joining us from Skopje and not from Brussels. So best regards to Skopje.
Because of that, I late 5 minutes because I immediately came from Brussels and directly to the Vienna Economic Forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you ever so much. In the next speeches, we will be listening to Vienna Economic Forum board members and leading managers of the international companies presented and interested in the Western Balkan 6 region. I would like to open the floor to Dr. Achim Kaspar, Chief Operating Officer, Verbund AG, and Vice President of Vienna Economic Forum. The floor is yours.
Dear Commissioner, dear Prime Minister, dear participants, we heard Mr. Kopac about the challenges of sustainable energy production in the Western Balkans. Let me explain a little bit about Verbund Green Generation and the agenda for the Western Balkans. Verbund is Austria's leading electricity company and one of the largest hydropower plant producers in Europe. We produce in Austria around 50% of the Austrian electricity. We reduced our CO2 emissions from thermal power plants around 70% since 2005. Our last coal-fired generation plant was discontinued in 2020 after 34 years in operation. A further step of Verbund's decarbonation strategy and a major step for our CO2 neutral Austria. Now, 97% of our productivity and our production is green. We start also to build an innovation cluster of green hydrogen to reduce the last fossil CO2 emissions and to fill our national climate goals. Next slide, please. Verbund Group in the I'm already the one again. Doesn't matter. Verbund Group in the electricity value chain. Our value chain includes the generation, transportation, trading, and sales of electric energy. In 2020, we produced around 30 terawatt hours, and our annual revenue was around 3.2 billion. Together, we produced this with around 2,800 employees. Verbund was active across Europe over the last 70 years. Our current electrification power plants are situated in Austria, Germany, Albania, and Romania. We produce our power with 130 hydropower plants, 150 windmills, and starting now to really put up solar projects in whole Europe, mainly in Austria and Germany. Around 90% of our electricity comes from hydropower. In 2030, our plans are that 25% of our overall electricity generation will come from wind and solar power. If we go to Albania, our first step in the Balkan region was a cooperation together with our project partner EVN in Albania. We invested around 210 million euros in the hydropower plant in Ashta. This current concession is a build, operate, and transfer model. And as always, we always try to bring economy and ecology in harmony. We designed and built in Ashta the first fish bath in Albania. We also have a Verbund Hydro Consulting that is in our experience your benefit if you want to really start green energy project in your countries. We export efficient and sustainable hydropower know-how in other countries based on ESG principles. That means we are offering asset service like from the project phase, from planning, from the idea to commissioning. We have asset management to really operate these power plants. We also have asset support for predictive maintenance and also are helping green assets for ecological measurements and engineering. But now let's come to, I think, the most interesting things in the direction to Skopje. I think we are one of the participants in one of the biggest projects in the country. We are really running for the tender together with our partner EVN, who is also a member of this economic board. And we also have been in the first round, and now we are really looking forward how this tender is going on. We are ready to really help and invest in your country. I think we have a long track record in hydro and hydropower. We know how to operate, to build, to plan, and really make the right decisions for a green future in Macedonia. So we are really interesting, not only Macedonia, so in the whole region, to really place our investments and really to bring our sustainable ideas and know-how to the whole of the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaspar. The second speech comes from Magister Peter Lenk, member of the Management Board Corporate Banking, Raiffeisenbank International AG, and member of the board of Vienna Economic Forum. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador, dear Commissioner, dear Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for organizing this event and bringing the Western Balkans in the spotlight. I want to address three very brief points. It's the general view of Raiffeisenbank International on the Western Balkans. It is our activities in the region, and it's our view on the economic and investment plans for the Western Balkans. Personally, I'm extremely happy about this because I'm engaged in the Western Balkans since more than 20 years, and I'm chairman of the supervisory board of 3 of our subsidiaries there. And I therefore view it highly important what's happening here. So the Western Balkans generally we see as a region of very dynamic regional economy and a very high economic potential. And we view it very important to push for the deeper integration with the European Union. We believe that this is a very important driver for the further welfare of the region and the people going forward. However, to form this common ground, I think it is very important that on the one hand, all EU member states have a very good understanding of the current challenges of the Western Balkans. And on the other hand, the Western Balkan countries need to commit fully and with good faith to the principles of the European Union. And as said, there is still quite some way to go when it comes to rule of law, governance, and similar matters. We are absolutely convinced that the Western Balkan countries are of enormous geostrategic importance, and we are very happy and appreciate that the EU does not miss the opportunity to strengthen the ties with this region before other global players do. We view the region as very important for European and international goods thanks to the favorable geographical position and the skilled labor force, a very big opportunity which is there. And we believe that, especially for the Western Balkans, now could be a very important role for the change in global value chains which are supplying the European Union as just outlined, and nearshoring will offer big opportunities there. On the other hand, we saw that in the recent years, the convergence drive of the region towards the European Union standards has slowed down. And we believe that now is a new chance to have a new push here and to slow down or stop the brain drain the region is suffering from. We also believe that it's of paramount importance to have now an effort and a focus on the structural reforms and to overcome the weaknesses of infrastructure and energy supply as indicated. So we're very happy to see that the EU has recognized this opportunity by launching the Economic and Investment Plan, which shows the commitment to the region and to strengthen the ties. Second, what is our activity in the region? RBI, as you know, regards Central and Eastern Europe as our home market. We are serving over 16 million customers in 13 countries in Central and Eastern Europe. And out of the 6 beneficiary countries of the Western Balkan Economic and Investment Plan, we are active in 4 of them. It is, as you can see here, Albania, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Kosovo, and Serbia. And we service there, as you see, millions of customers, around 2 million of customers. We have 300 branches in the region. And we finance the real economy of all customer groups, large corporates, mid-market, small companies, and also private individuals, of course. On top of that, we service many international companies active in the region through our international desks, and we see and appreciate that our customers value to have one banking group servicing them throughout the whole region and trying to help them overcoming some of the fragmentation which is there. What we like about the Western Balkans, and I may speak personally from my own observation, I like the people. I like their competence, I like their skills, I like their commitment. It was very impressive to see how all employees held up during the pandemic, the infrastructure to provide our customers with the needed financial services, and to make sure that the flow of money and the whole transactional business did never stop. On top of that, it was good to see that we could help our customers through this difficult period of time of recession, and now are very positive on the economic recovery of the region and the many new opportunities. And we could see that most of our customers came through this undamaged, partly due to political support. I think all governments made here a big effort, but of course also to our willingness to support customers in difficult times. What I also want to mention is, and I like it very much, it is the huge still untapped potential. For example, for our group, we have built an IT competence center in Kosovo, and I very much appreciate the quality of the colleagues, the great education they receive from the local universities, and their ability and commitment to contribute here also for tasks to be done for other countries within our RBI group. So this willingness to succeed on the Western Balkans, this drive is something we like very much. To conclude on the third point, what is our view on the content of the economic and investment plan of the Western Balkans? We are very happy about it. We think it is an important stimulus for the region. Particularly, we appreciate and like the Western Balkan Guarantee Facility. This can be a very nice multiplier and mobilize various billions of euro of investment. We think that this can free up capacity and increase the risk-taking capacity for lending for us and other banks in the region. We also welcome that the program will be implemented in cooperation with IFIs like the European Investment Bank and EBRD, with whom we have a very strong and good cooperation over many years. And we're happy to discuss with them how we can together structure the things to make sure that the impact on the real economy is fast, unbureaucratic, and effective. Also, we very much appreciate the focus on climate and green finance. We are the first Austrian bank that has become a signatory of the UN Principles of Responsible Banking, and we are at the forefront of ESG finance, not only in Austria, but especially also in Central and Eastern Europe, where we want to advise and guide our customers in this direction. So we are very much convinced that the economic and investment plan will enhance the growth potential and will stimulate the green and digital transformation in the Western Balkans, and we are pleased to support our customers together with our daughter banks and be a trusted partner in this transition. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your inspiring words, Magister Lenk. We're now saying good morning to Washington, where His Excellency Ambassador Viktor Jakovic is waiting for us. Ambassador Jakovic, can you hear us? Mr. Jakovic is President of Jakovic. Welcome, good morning. Mr. Ambassador Jakovic is President of Jakovic International USA, a member of the board of Vienna Economic Forum. Mr. Jakovic, it's wonderful to see you again. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I hope you can see me and hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, very good. Well, first of all, I want to thank Thomas Arnalder, the CEO of A1 Telecom Austria Group, for giving the Vienna Economic Forum his facilities, the facilities of his company. Very kind indeed. Prime Minister Zoran Zaev, who has been here through this entire meeting and even made 2 interventions. State Secretary Dovzhan, representing Prime Minister Janez Janša from Slovenia, Commissioner Oliver Verhali, and of course our own President Petar Umundum, and our General Secretary, Ambassador Kircheva. This European Union's economic and investment plan is proceeding, it seems, very smoothly, very well, particularly when I hear some of the interventions here. There are complications, There are sometimes political complications, complications involved with COVID-19, of course, but the plan accurately focuses on the economy, and it focuses on connectivity, regional cooperation. I'm reminded of the frequent motto that we use in the Vienna Economic Talks and the Vienna Economic Forum, that the economy leads politics. Serbia's what is called the mini Schengen agreement, which facilitates commerce between Serbia, Albania, Kosovo, and North Macedonia, is a very positive step and is very much aligned, it seems, with the EU's investment plan when it calls for a common regional market based on EU values. There has been some talk about continued enlargement, and of course, the continued enlargement of the Euro-Atlantic community should be a very top priority. Frankly, it seems that the stagnation is not among the Western Balkan states, which have made enormous strides in recent years in economic reform, political reform, judicial reform. Rather, it is the EU member states and Brussels, which appears very often not to be ready. I think what we need are moves towards the Western Balkans so that they can be not only on track to enter the Euro-Atlantic community of democracies, but on the fast track. The lack of forward movement is obvious to all of us. It means further stagnation in the region. It means that some of the citizenry will become more receptive to outside intrusions. Here I'm thinking quite bluntly of Russia, China, and even the Middle East. It means a continued marginalization of a region from which certain problems have come in for all of Europe. I'm thinking here of criminalization, corruption, migration, instability in general. We have seen in recent months, in recent weeks even, some what I would call very unhelpful so-called non-papers that are suggesting radical geopolitical solutions. These are, number one, unimplementable. Number two, they're simply creating chaos and turmoil among the citizens of the Western Balkans. Number three, they could encourage autocratic, nationalistic, predatory ambitions of some states. And number four, the most important thing, it detracts us, it detracts all of us from what are the real issues in the region. Rather, states like Bosnia, North Macedonia, Kosovo, Montenegro, Serbia, their state institutions need to be strengthened so that they can truly join the entire Euro-Atlantic community. And as an American, please forgive me, I'm sounding like I'm speaking in the name of the EU, but in fact, or about the EU, in fact, I think of the Euro-Atlantic community as dual pillars, the European Union and NATO. I certainly want to congratulate the progress made, great progress made in North Macedonia. We've heard about it today from the Prime Minister, but also it's not only in political, economic, and judicial reforms, but in relations with neighboring states. I will not get into that in details, but I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. Slovenia has a great opportunity in the near future, starting in July, already in a few months, to make an enormous contribution to further integration of the Western Balkans through its presidency of the European Commission. And I want to make one final comment here, and that actually comes from remarks that I read about either this morning or late last night. With the time change, I never know which day it is. But it was from Milo Đukanović, the president of Montenegro, who remains a very savvy and very intelligent observer of the scene, not only in Montenegro, but in all of the Balkans. And it seemed to me that in these remarks, if I could summarize them on his behalf without his knowledge, he was saying that there needs to be, this investment plan is very good, it's outstanding, it's excellent, especially if it's fully implemented. But what is needed really is a geopolitical parallel to this, to the investment plan so that there is a clear roadmap with precise milestones for the states of the Western Balkans in terms of final integration into the Euro-Atlantic community. The second point he made, I think, was about Thessaloniki, because he said, well, this was in 2003. We talked about all this in Thessaloniki in 2003, and we talked about the projection and the years and all this. It's now 2021, 18 years after Thessaloniki, after Solun, that we're still talking about this. And in fact, Djukanovic made the comment, he said, I think in 2014, we were closer to integration than we are today. Quite a strong statement. And his final point was that the new states should be brought in when finally they are brought in, when they are fully prepared, one by one, and not according to some sort of regional package. But again, I say this without his knowledge. I just was impressed with what he said, and I thought it was a good rejoinder on the political side of what we're talking about on the economic side. I'm very proud to be part of the Vienna Economic Forum efforts, and very proud to be addressing you today from Washington. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ambassador Jakovic, and enjoy the rest of your day. We will one more time try to connect to Belgrade. Dobro večer. Dobro večer, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I hope you hear me also.
Excellent. The floor is all yours. Please go ahead, Mr. Vesovic.
Thank you. Sorry for technical difficulties. I try to be brief and factual. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm greeting you in front of the West Balkan 6 Chamber Investment Forum. It's a regional platform of the Chambers of Commerce from the Western Balkan region, and it represents actually more than 350,000 companies operating in the area. We, as a Chamber Investment Forum, salute the focus of the European Union on supporting the acceleration of the accession of our countries within the EU through many instruments. And I must say that the economic and investment plan for Western Balkan is being the most important one, especially the part that is focused directly on the private sector. Namely, we are talking about substantial allocation for guarantees under the Western Balkans Guarantee Facility, and by doubling grants provided under the Western Balkans Enterprise Development and Innovation Facility. This is very important, especially to micro, small and medium-sized companies as an access to finance, which we must state that it's one of the main problems of the companies in Western Balkans that we face. Over the 580 million of extra resources is now being made available for further EU support infrastructure development in Western Balkan region. I would like to mention the most important part, that is that also the EU will support the technical assistance that will enable the preparation of the new investments. This includes higher education facilities in Serbia, preparation work and focused on the road and railway interconnection in the Western Balkan region, such as Blue Highway in Albania, Peace Highway in Serbia, the Bar-Grabica Railroad in Montenegro, Kraljevo-Rudnica railway line in Serbia. Of course, the countries of the Western Balkan expect the fast adoption of the IPA 3 regulation this summer, where the funding sources will be fully visible. In the first phase of the investment in infrastructure, especially in the transport network, it is the highest priority for the business community, especially for the companies from Western Balkan. As you heard, the main market is the European Union, but also the European companies operating in the Western Balkan region, and especially it is most important for the supplier network that we want to include in every investment. Nevertheless, which country main investment goes, the supplier network from the West Balkan 6 region should operate on a common market. Many companies in the West Balkan 6 see themselves as a part of the European Union, and many of them export to the European Union, and it is there a part of the EU value chains. So far, the principle of the negotiation for the EU accession, meaning that no benefits until all are completed, has proven to be too slow and too political. This is why we, as the Western Balkan 6 Chamber Investment Forum launched the initiative to call for the inclusive enlargement principle. And we do appreciate that recognition from the economic investment plan authors so far. We would like to emphasize the phasing in, especially concerning the EU market and the access to the West Balkan companies to that market. EU could offer to candidate countries the possibility to unlock the full potential of the EU single market for certain products or the groups of products in defined sectors and upon meeting the EU criteria in these fields. There are so many things that we can work in the future to ensure better links between EU and West Balkan 6. For example, we had seen last year during the pandemics how the West Balkan countries formed the green lanes, and that was a swift and very decisive action, and it was possible. We did that. This scheme enabled for the interrupted flow of the essential goods within the region. We are still witnessing the significantly lower waiting times on our borders, and even now when the volumes got up. But Western Balkan 6 countries chambers urged the prime ministers of the neighboring EU member states to consider the implementing of the pilot proposed by the transport community and the CEFTA Secretariat to establish the green lines between Western Balkan 6 region and the EU. This would be a considered immediate impact on the Western Balkan economies and would be a first tangible step forward towards the inclusive enlargement concept. Investing in digital future, clean energy and green energy, for Western Balkans countries is equally important. I should say that we believe that innovation agenda for the Western Balkans is very important for the further boosting of technology transfer and strengthening of the companies through innovations. The other side, we expect a lot from the programs in the implementation of the Common Regional Market Accession Plan, which will be implemented in the next 3 years, that was adopted by the Prime Minister's Sofia summit. In that respect, we eagerly looking forward to the next Berlin Process Summit in July in Berlin, where we will present the deliverables of the Common Regional Market Action Plan. To conclude, once again, we salute the Economic Investment Plan, but we urge all the stakeholders to speed up negotiation on its implementation, as we need to see it implemented on the ground and for our companies' good. It will make the feel of the EU's commitment to the region visible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vesovic, and regards to Belgrade. During the past 1.5 hours, we've listened to many points of views, expectations, information, appeals, investment opportunities, but also concrete projects in the Western Balkan were shared. Mr. Emmanuel Forrest, member of the EU Mission Board for Climate Neutral and Smart City and member of the board of Vienna Economic Forum, will take on the challenge to share his brief summary remarks. After the summary remarks by Mr. Emmanuel Forrest, Ms. Ambassador Dr. Elena Kircheva, founder, member of the board, Secretary General of Vienna Economic Forum, will say a few closing words. Bonjour et bienvenue, Mr. Forrest. The floor is yours. Do we have a connection? Let's wait for a few moments. Do we have a connection to Paris? No, we don't have a connection to Paris, so I propose that Dr. Kircheva takes the word now and we can try again later. Thank you so much.
Thank you. As soon as we have Mr. Forrest online, I will give to him the word, but let me use this opportunity to thank everybody who joined us in this moment.
You can hear me?
My welcome is to Mr. Forrest. You have the floor, Mr. Forrest.
You can hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I am reconnected.
We can see you and we can listen.
I could listen to everybody.
Please take the floor.
It was a very strange situation. Sorry for that. And Also, hello from Paris. From sunny Paris, I think it's a very big challenge for me because I have a negative credit for speech time to comment on what has been said. I was very honored to participate and to listen to all the speakers, since it's a very strong support and a very strong enthusiasm for the economic investment plan for the Western Balkans. As Mrs. Kircheva said, I am member of the Mission Board for Climate Neutral and Smart Cities of the EU. This mission board has proposed to the Commission to create a very ambitious plan to have 100 climate neutral cities in Europe, in the EU, for the end of 2030. It will be a kind of proof of concept of the Green Deal, and it will be also a hub for all the other cities, which should be in the position to be climate neutral for 2015. And of course, all cities of the Western Balkans, since I think that before 2050, we will have been joined by all the states and all the cities of the Western Balkans. Working on that, we are quite aware of the fact that we cannot imagine anything within the framework of the sole EU, and in particular, climate neutrality. We cannot imagine that it would be wise to have 100% of climate neutral cities in EU if it is not the case in the neighboring country. And even I would say, I think that the Polish citizens are interested to know whether there will be in Kaliningrad also a Green Deal to make sure that all the surrounding is safe. And so that means that I am completely convinced that Europe is more than the present EU, and that the Western Balkan, as it has been said by all participants, is part of the EU. When we discussed in the mission board, and it will be my last remark on this mission board, with my colleague, Estonian colleague of Tallinn, she said, I cannot make Tallinn climate neutral if I don't address the issue of the electricity production, which comes from outside Tallinn. And so I noticed in the debate that a huge challenge, for instance, for the Western Balkans was energy decarbonization. It was the statement of Janez Kopač, and of carbon pricing. That means that we have very common challenges and we should address them together. To summarize, I would say I listened to Commissioner Oliver Várhelyi, and he said, we have two geographical areas, but one political and economic logic. The EU recovery plan is also at the same time, or is part of a recovery plan for the Western Balkans. And we have the same issue with digital and green transition, renovation wave, high-speed internet, roaming like at home. I have fought against roaming like at home when I represented Bouygues Telecom, but now I think it's a very good thing, and in particular for Western Balkans. And the State Secretary, Gasper Dovžan, said also that we had common challenges, and that this economic and investment plan will be a valuable tool that complements enlargement methodology. And I think a very important statement that was that it's not a technical process, but a political tool. Remembering almost the birth of the European community. The European community was a common market, but it was a huge political project. And unfortunately, sometimes young people feel that in the EU we have just the single market, and that we have forgotten the political challenge and the political ambition. And I think joining in the EU, the Western Balkans, I think it's a message of this conference, could be a renewal of the political ambition of the European Union. And I noticed that Prime Minister Zoran Zaev, and thank you for being there at the end of this conference, said, of course, that this plan came at the right time. It would be a trigger for private investments, but I noticed that your country could be more ambitious than some EU countries, and you have demonstrated it with very concrete projects in water treatment, in railways, and Mikhailo Vescovic also with enthusiasm has demonstrated that in Serbia also there were some very concrete projects. It's not just speech, and I think this plan is important because it demonstrates that even if politically there are some issues, we can manage to make things together very fast and to anticipate the future. For my last words would be, first, I think the discussion was about interconnection with classical infrastructure, railways, for instance, roads. Digital infrastructure in high bandwidth internet is key now. Energy and human interconnection is not the last but not least. I was sensitive to what Dr. Georg Bucher said with the doubt of young people about the process of integration. And as a French citizen, I know that perhaps France is not the country which demonstrates the most the willingness to go further for understandable political reason. But I think it's young people, and young people should be optimistic. And there is a reason to be optimistic, is that we have lived a huge change in the last year. There is a joke in the companies, which is, who is responsible for the digital transition? Is it the CEO? Is it the CTO? Or is it the COVID-19? And in fact, it is the COVID-19. And we have made a huge step, and in particular regarding e-commerce. And it's, I think, what the young people would like to do, but the old people who manage the companies would have done that slower. And so it's a challenge, but an opportunity, a challenge for digital infrastructure again. And for Western Balkans, that means it's very urgent to roll out digital infrastructures, training. And of course, there is a technical thing. It's the end of customs duties. But as it was said earlier, I think there are already some steps which are done, even if the integration is not completed. So, and then the last point is free movements of person. It's not a joke, but I discussed with people recently, and it's quite usual to listen that somebody, a young man or woman, has found a job in a Belgian company in Brussels and will work from the Canary Islands, which are well known now to have transformed the hotel in co-working centers. And in fact, for the young people in the Western Balkans, there is the situation is that they can have jobs, or some companies in the Western Balkans can propose jobs to people who live in France or anywhere in the world, but at least in the European Union. And there is probably a very interesting move. It's perhaps slightly theoretical, but I think it's a sign of hope that the reality could be faster than the political constraints. And that is also a challenge for the politics, because we have a certain regulations of the free movement of workers, and what does it mean? What does work contract mean in a world where somebody from the Western Balkans can work from a company in the United States or in France? And so my last word, and connecting to that, will be that. So I am in Paris. I regretted not to fly to Vienna because it's slightly complicated. I think it's more complicated to fly to Germany. But I've just looked on my smartphone. It seems that it was not so complicated. It's not so complicated to fly to North Macedonia. And so I regret. I should have flown to North Macedonia. And if I have the opportunity to participate next year, I know now that I could intervene from Belgrade or from Skopje. That means that the integration is already there. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Forrest, dear Emmanuel. Thank you very much for your contribution. Best regards to Paris. And let me say a big thank you to all participants this evening is in Vienna. Thank you very much to Ambassador Jakovic. Good day in Washington. And let me so say that changing condition of the global happenings, but I am convinced through the prism of the regional specificity. Through the prism of the regional specificity, we will be able to do something for a part of the world where we are so aiming to do something good. To support the growth of a Balkan economic area is the long-standing objective of Vienna Economic Forum. I have to thanks to the Prime Minister of these countries, the member countries of Vienna Economic Forum, who are patrons of Vienna Economic Forum. This participation of the Prime Minister makes Vienna Economic Forum a unique organization. And thanks to the members of Vienna Economic Forum, to all of you, gentlemen, Mr. President, Vice President, Mr. Arnold, our host today, and valuable member of the board of Vienna Economic Forum, we have and we can do something for the region of the Balkan, from the region, the whole region of southeastern of Europe, because without this region, have a look at the map. Without this region, Europe is not the whole one. Not only in geographical, not only economically means. Europe needs these regions even more than the region needs Europe. This is my message at the end of today's Vienna Economic Talks. Thank you again very much, and a special thanks goes to the Commissioner Varhelyi. Thank you, Commissioner, to being with us, and to the good friend of Vienna Economic Forum and our long-standing patron, His Excellency, Mr. Premier Minister Zoran Zaev. All the best, all of you. We are free today night to go to a restaurant for first time in Vienna after half a year. Thank you, and all the best to all of you. Thank you.